Welcome back to the Heroes Global Championship North America. Sorry, NA fans, for starting just a little late, but we were watching some freaking amazing European matches. I'm Gillyweed, and this is Dreadnought. And Dread, now that HGC EU opening week has come to a close, were there any favorite EU matches that you had?
I think my favorite thing coming out of Europe has got to be the Chromie as an attempt to be the counter and harass onto the Ariel that we saw Fnatic pull out. It's just creative and also just really well done overall.
I loved seeing Team Expert. I can't wait to see them go up against some of the top in Europe too and see just where they stand. But speaking of standings, let's move on to North America. Now that all of the teams have had their first match as of yesterday, we can see which four won their first match and which four are still looking for that first win. Tempo Storm, Team 8, Superstars, and Gale Force Esports actually all won their last matches and are looking to move on, especially there's a few teams looking to continue wins today. Dread, we have had a lot of questions about the North American meta, but it seems like now, with all of the roster shuffles, that some questions for NA are starting to become answered.
Slowly but surely, I do think that they are getting some answers. For some teams, a little bit more clear than some of the others. Gale Force, for instance, seems to be kind of a little bit all over when it comes to their drafting, but others, they showed their favoritism towards specific heroes, at least for now.
Well, let's take a look at the two matches that we will be watching today. These are going to be spicy, guys. We are starting off with Team 8 versus B-Step. That, of course, if you aren't aware, Team 8 has Glaurung and Prismaticism, former members of the team that is now B-Step. So a little revenge match potential there. And then a match that needs no introduction. It's Team Naventic versus Gale Force Esports.
An absolute rivalry match there to end the day here for North America. But if you guys did not catch Tricked Esports versus Team Expert or Misfits versus Fnatic, which was an insane series, you can catch those VODs at heroesofthestorm.com/esports.
We are ready for our very first match of the day, B-Step versus Team 8. Let's get into it. Right after we talk about the format of the series first. These are all going to be best of 5 series, and it is going to be a round-robin tournament. And your performance influences your standing within the league, so every match is so important when you start to looking to qualify for the first big event, which will be the Western Clash.
And for the Western Clash and all the clashes, really, the top 3 teams are only going to be the ones that actually manage to qualify. And then also, the format is very different from last year in the sense that the team that loses gets the opportunity to decide if they want to end up being first pick or if they want to be able to select the map rather than the 4 swap that we had during all of 2016.
All right, now we got all of the the stuff we had to get done out of the way. Let's get into our first matchup.
I think B-Step is going to be pretty strong, but I don't know if they'll be as good as they were before. I think McIntyre is a really strong player, but I know he's more known for his melees, so I'm not sure how he's going to transition into the position he's playing for B-Step.
I mean, we're definitely going to practice against Team 8, but it should be just playing almost like an HL game. I think while they are a really strong team and have multiple strategies, if you can identify what it is they want to do and take it away from them, in general, they won't be prepared for their lack of strategy.
I think that's a team that we have to beat, and having Glau on the team, replacing him on the current team that I'm on, I think we have to show a result, and I expect a 3-0.
Big words from McIntyre, expecting a 3-0, especially with the roster swaps he talked about. He is replacing Glaurung on B-Step. Now, looking at the play that we saw come out of B-Step yesterday, it was pretty passive, and it did cause them to be behind in the early game virtually every game versus Gale Force Esports, which was kind of strange to see from them. And I have to wonder if getting rid of Glaurung, removing him from the team, got rid of some of their aggressiveness even, that you might say.
Definitely on the communication front. I think that taking away Glaurung, that would hurt having a very vocal and a leadership kind of role for that group of players. And I agree with the passiveness that we saw out of B-Step over and over again. And as we just heard from McIntyre, that his need to really be able to perform against this team now, that is going to be a rough thing after watching, again, that really very, avoiding fights whenever possible approach that we saw against Gale Force.
Yeah, and Team 8, when we saw them play versus No Tomorrow, they were far more concerted, I think, than we even expected them to be. Some might even have said that that was an upset. It was a 3-0, and Glaurung showed so many different awesome heroes, specifically his Medivh.
Yeah, his Medivh was ridiculous. The amount of resources that he was able to draw out of his opponent's side and the counterplay there. It's, adding another hero really to the arsenal that Glaurung, that you have to give that respect to in the draft, no matter what team you are, no matter how much better or worse you might feel over Team 8.
Well, as with all series, the battleground where the games take place is oh so important. So let's see what was banned out from both the teams and what our first battleground will be.
It's going to be the ban on Dragonshire and Infernal Shrines. In our first map, we're going to be headed to Cursed Hollow. Interesting choice for Cursed Hollow. I think I'm kind of excited about that. It will force a lot of brawling, which I think is going to be awesome to see out of these teams. But I am already concerned, knowing that it's going to be on Cursed Hollow, the performance of B-Step. They used to be, as a group, very, very dominant on this map, but with the weakness in the macro that we saw out of them and their early game struggles, I feel like Team 8 might kind of be able to have a heyday for the first 10 levels of this game.
Guys, we're going to look at the standings one more time before we get into the draft for the first game, because we were just a little bit wrong on the standings, so we will pull those up very soon so we can make sure you guys know exactly where every single team is here in the top 8 of North America in the Heroes Global Championship. Looking at Cursed Hollow, too, it is Team 8's battleground choice, and one that they performed on very well versus No Tomorrow, and that was where we saw Glaurung's Tracer.
Yes, the Tracer, you have to be afraid of the Illidan. There has to be a Zeratul. Medivh thrives on that map, so Glaurung has an absolute arsenal to be able to pull from forward the first game here.
Well, I want to continue this conversation definitely because there's a lot to talk about between these two teams, but let's pull up those standings one more time and give it another go. The top 4 teams here, all with a 1-0 in their first series. Tempo Storm beating Naventic, Team 8 taking out No Tomorrow, Superstars beating Team Freedom, and finally Gale Force Esports taking down B-Step in our last series of last night, and what a series that was.
Yeah, it was kind of a nail-biter there, especially at times. It felt like Gale Force just constantly got a pick here, a pick there, and then B-Step just didn't really know where to go from there. And I'm looking to see that adjust here. The fact that B-Step is now going to be playing again those early games has to be a lot more calculated and considering, risk-reward, where it seems kind of almost disrespectful level of play against Gale Force yesterday.
Yeah, and when they're up against Team 8 now, Team 8 has their number in a lot of ways because Glaurung knows a lot of these members, their tendencies, their playstyles, except for McIntyre. But on the other side, so do the members of B-Step to Glaurung. So how do you think that might affect the draft as we get this one started?
I think if anybody gains the advantage on the world of intel, it's Glaurung, for sure. Glaurung is a person who's played on multiple teams. Everybody's played against him in the competitive scene at some point. So knowing how to play against Glaurung, I think is something that they didn't learn anything by playing with him for some time. But Glaurung, on the other hand, getting able to play with that trio and the rest of the roster of B-Step, that is going to give him and his team a huge advantage here.
Looking at B-Step's ban, a ban on Medivh. So respect right out of the gates for B-Step. Meanwhile, Team 8 continuing the trend of banning Artanis. B-Step made a lot of plays with Artanis yesterday, including the swap that led into the famed 5-man mosh of King Caffeine.
Yeah, it was absolutely ridiculous play there. So now, the fact that B-Step has to decide what they want to be moving into here for their first pick. Also, things to keep in mind for Team 8 and so far in their drafts, they did have heavy patterns with Diablo showing up in all 3 of their games against No Tomorrow. And so we'll see if that trend still kind of holds true here today.
Especially because I felt like Justing showed off that hero very well. But as you had mentioned to me, it was empowered by Medivh in 2 of the 3 games.
Yeah, and I think that was something that kind of made it stand out a bit, whereas Team 8 really is that pseudo-supporting, double-supporting with the Medivh, with the Tassadar, enabled Diablo to become that powerhouse here. And on that same note, B-Step is already going to be removing this very early into the draft. That Tassadar pick removes a lot of those heroes we know Glaurung wants to be on this type of map. It hurts the Tracer, it hurts the Illidan, it's a soft response to the Zeratul, so a very well-rounded decision here already for B-Step.
And one that lends more toward our European counterparts when we're looking at the draft. They highly prioritize that hero, and so far in the HGC of North America, he's 5 out of 5 games won.
He is absolutely killing it, and usually when looking at other parts of the world as well, Tassadar is one of the few that always is at the upper half of drafts. The complement that not only provides the specific heroes, but then just the map itself, the raw wave clear, the vision. He has so many things that he can do So I'm really happy to see this change here for B-Step already in their first pick.
And it does hurt so much of Team 8. Team 8 are going to pick up Malfurion and Zarya. So understanding that Tassadar, one of the enabler shield heroes, has already been off the table, it may have even pushed up Zarya in priority for Team 8 to make sure that they had 1-2 in grabbing Zarya.
Yeah, and so with this Tassadar, I look for B-Step to try and, make sure that somebody gets value out of the consistent shields. It's not an absolute must, but it never hurts when you do have that. Whether it be, a Vala, you can put it with a Tracer if they want to move that route themselves. So we'll have to see where that goes. But overall, B-Step has been, pretty, I guess, kind of hard to predict a little bit when it comes to their drafting so far.
Yeah.
Not nearly as heavy of tendencies as they have had in the past as a group. And again, that comes down to the definition, I guess, of the North American meta. I don't even know if a lot of the teams totally have an actual defined rank list or priority.
And they have a lot of flexible players. They had players who in their last series played a different hero every single game, and across a wide variety, a wide spectrum of roles that you would look at, specifically McIntyre and even iDream too. Vala is the choice to pair with Tassadar. It's a super nice pairing, and Brightwing will be the choice. It's a APM classic. They have perfected the Brightwing bombs if they want to grab ETC with that too, although I expect maybe Team 8 to even ban him out knowing that. And then it's a global that helps with this large battleground.
Yeah, it's an interesting choice to see the Brightwing up there that early, so I hope to see a little justification with that on the back half of B-Step's draft here, as Team 8 is now considering what they are going to be able to try and remove from this game. Dahaka and ETC seem to be the consideration for them. Not too surprising, but they do have the pick in the next rotation, and where do you think Team 8's going to be moving? What is the thought process that you want to see with that TAS off the table?
I would have assumed that we would still have a Diablo from Team 8, right?
Yeah. And the Zarya would be able to help him a bit. It's just the question of whether or not it gains really that much value here. I am surprised. I wouldn't be surprised, I guess, if the Tyrael, again, because it is Cursed Hollow, we need to be considering the boss control that it can provide. And again, the strength he has as a hero with his Holy Ground.
The only other player I've seen play Zarya other than Justin himself in that sort of solo Zarya composition that we're still trying to figure out is to have Yoda on it. It doesn't mean that somebody else hasn't been able to pick her up. Looks like Dahaka was the ban, so maybe Team 8 concerned about B-Step's ability to run the global game, something that we have seen from Gale Force a lot, even got a little taste of yesterday too.
Very much so. So now B-Step has to consider what do they remove. Want to remove support. Obviously, is not going to be the focus with Malfurion available. Probably a backliner here. I'm guessing it's going to be the Tychus removal. Falstad would be something I could look towards as well. Either way, they've got 1 second to figure it out. Instead, going to the Diablo. Going to be targeting that favoritism we saw from Team 8 in their very first series.
That's an interesting choice, though, that happens considering the fact that Artanis, Dahaka, and Diablo have all been the bans.
Yeah.
Team 8 gets to pick another warrior first, and B-Step still doesn't have theirs. So what plan is it that they believe that Team 8 are not going to disrupt at all by picking up something like ETC? Because for me, it feels like they're guiding Team 8 into ETC.
Yeah, it does feel a little bit that way, and I would expect Team 8 to be able to pick it up. Again, we still have Tyrael on the table, and it is a place where he can thrive, complementing a bit of the overall shielding strategy on the side of B-Step. So I can't help but feel like, what if it's a little bit of a kind of a call out in the sense that we don't think you're going to be picking up a Tyrael, and there is the ETC, and that they feel beyond comfortable with that in their arsenal here in their next 2 picks.
Tyrael up, Muradin is up too. It is King Caffeine, so that always could be a choice. With Tassadar, we're looking at now either McIntyre or iDreams here. Probably iDream. I think we'll likely see McIntyre playing the Tassadar. Maybe a double warrior?
A double warrior would definitely not be bad by any means. They have shown that they do kind of have some preference on, again, having K1 Pro feel a little bit more impactful on the heroes. And I think that would be in their best interest, but that's typically always going to be that backliner. I don't feel like Vala is really that one. But then I think of heroes like Li Ming. It's one of her better maps, but I also look at the composition on the side of Team 8, and I don't feel like Li Ming thrives in this situation. There's not too many hyper carries and K1 Pro heroes, you know, like even a rare Jaina to pop up here. So I feel like it's got to be Tyrael and, okay,
I
Leoric
wondered
Tyrael.
if Leo,
Okay.
knowing King Caffeine, knowing how the trend of Warriors was going this game.
I don't know how I really feel about this with the Leoric and the Tyrael. Together, they both are kind of mid-tier when it comes to survivability on their own, but also provide a reasonable damage output, which is going to be needed in that double warrior composition. They just typically, when you have Leo and a double warrior, you want the secondary warrior to not only do damage, but also kind of accent Leoric. And I feel like outside of the Holy Ground, you know, pin into the Entomb, I don't know how much coordination they really have together, and is Valla the only large DPS to really kill that target? I really feel like there has to be some insane synergy here for B-Step already with this draft.
Right, a double warrior, double
Oh my
support.
goodness.
Wow, composition is typically difficult to pull off. How does Azmodan change things now?
I am trying to figure that out. Brightwing cannot really deal with that healing on her own. Even the Tassadar shielding with Kala's Embrace, being able to keep half the shield still late game, I don't think can deal with the raw poke that is going to be provided there by the Azmodan. But that was a risk I don't feel like teammate necessarily needed to take in this draft. It was very well-rounded draft composition. They just needed a backliner. There were a lot of options. So this is not like there was a, you know, push into something weird. This was very, very voluntary on the side of Team 8.
Well, we just got thrown for a loop.
Yeah.
It's going to be crazy, but great for game number 1. We want to hear from you guys what you think of this Azmodan pick, the rest of the draft. So make sure you tweet using the hashtag HGC. You might even see your tweet up on the screen, read by us. I got bodied by one of those yesterday, by the way.
Yeah, they're a little
lotto.
bit. A lotto. Yes, you did. Oh, my goodness. But yeah, the Azmodan, we've seen it come out in HGC Europe already.
Yeah.
A different style, you know, Demonic Invasion was the option. It wasn't the traditional Blackpool stacking on your Qs. So
Pretty much my nightmare of style of Azmodan to try to play against.
yeah, and it's even harder or more difficult to be able to deal with on larger maps like this. But I do expect a more damage teamfight-oriented Azmodan build here.
Yeah, you're thinking Sieging Wrath, March of... Wait, where you build up the globe too? One of the globe talents?
Yeah, going for the globes and trying to get the stack. There aren't necessarily the best stackers onto the team, but the late game scaling that it provides into a weak healer like Brightwing, that's where I'd be looking to, because you have the Zarya in ETC in the front line. You have a lot of front line to be able to deal with, a lot of survivability with the Zarya and the Malfurion overall. So
Yeah.
I think just poke in winning the long game, and then eventually... and it only helps them just purely on the fact that B-Step has a weaker early game. They showed it
Right.
all over the place, and that's where you need to really punish Azmodan picks, much like Abathur. You need to
Yeah.
be very aggressive into the early game, or things get ugly very quickly.
So even though it's not necessarily a battleground we typically see of that type of stacking Azmodan, because we haven't seen it B-Step be able to punish early game yet, it almost seems like they are testing B-Step to see if they can even do this.
It does feel maybe a little bit of a test, but I guess if I was to be the one testing, I don't know if I would go as far as risking with that Asmo, you know, maybe feel it out a little bit more. In my head, it feels more of like, well, we think we can just out macro, and Azmodan is absolutely terrifying when your opponents really don't make swift transitions. It just seems way too risky to be able to put out there this early on is into the series. Brightwing is going to have to back and get a response, but I don't know.
We'll see if they can pull it off. We're ready for game number 1 between B-Step and Team 8. We'll see you inside.
All right, so on the blue side here, we are in fact going to have Team 8, where Yoda is going to be on Zarya, Glaurung playing the Ragnaros, Azmodan played by Prismaticism, Buds on Malfurion, and Justing playing ETC.
And in the red, the members of B-Step, K1 Pro playing Valla, Tassadar played by McIntyre, Brightwing played by APM, King Caffeine playing Leoric, and iDream on Tyrael.
All right, so I'm already wrong. The Prismaticism,
Yeah, Master of Destruction.
yeah, has decided to go Master of Destruction into a bit more of an E build here. The harass that it can provide is pretty significant. I just don't know if it's that significant. We already see a 1-1-3 option here for Team 8, which is a smart decision when considering the weak laners that exist on the side of B-Step. And we'll see if they make anything happen here for Team 8.
We're looking at the keys to the game for Team 8, and one of the points that we've hammered home is that Team 8 needs to take advantage of B-Step's weak early game. That's something that Gale Force Esports made pretty obvious in the last series. So if they're able to do that, then they can continue the macro and put the pressure on.
Yeah, and just avoid 5-man moshes if you can.
In general, that's always a smart thing to do whenever you're playing Heroes of the Storm.
Yeah, that's a pretty solid one there. Other than that, though, we do have the Leoric Ragnaros is going to be the 1v1. ETC versus Tyrael is the other one. Both of those are going to be, you know, kind of like a wet noodle fight, really. It's just you kind of slap the minions because you can't kill one another, sadly.
Let's talk about this Master of Destruction pick while we have time for Azmodan. Traditionally, when we saw a lot of Azmodan picks, it was trying to build up the damage of Globe of Annihilation, and there were two different sieging talents that allowed you to do that. One from killing minions and one from killing heroes, or hitting heroes. But now with Master of Destruction, because his all-shell burn was buffed so that you at base get some movement speed with it, as long as it's on it, as Master of Destruction is being used, then the longer the laser is down, it increases the range. So you can continue to kind of move around, but keep that laser on. And later on, you can pick up a talent that lets you move even faster at 80% of base health with Master of Destruction. What do you think that the plan is then for Prismaticism and the rest of the team having this more of a CG type Azmodan build? Is it just going to be AFK and lane sieging whenever Brightwing does too?
I think it has, yeah, but he's going to be able to dominate Brightwing. Brightwing does not have the ability to get that clear. Even not kind of opting towards the Q talents that were an option to maybe be a little bit aiding in the clear is going to hurt B-Step even more. So yeah, we're going to see Brightwing separating and looking to, you know, try and get rid of the Azmodan, but in the long run, we should see Prismaticism just overpower, whether it be through, you know, just Azmodan himself or having Demonic Evasion or his little minions that he's going to be able to spawn. Because Brightwing, one thing a lot of people underestimate about having a global and having Brightwing is, yes, she is there to have that global and she can do quite a few things. The biggest thing with Brightwing is she doesn't really have the best wave clear onto her own compared to a Falstad or even Dahaka. So put it against the Azmodan and you're going to have a bad time.
And B-Step were doing a pretty good job of responding up in the top by dealing with taking down some towers, but in the bottom then, Leoric is struggling versus Ragnaros, already getting a tower there too. And once these long tribute fights starts, is when Azmodan is going to have a super fun time, especially with Hellish Hirelings at 4, increasing damage that Mercenaries can do. Now, unfortunately for Team 8, the positioning of the first tribute didn't quite work out for that, but later on, there's always the potential.
Yeah, and we see a pretty slow rotation here. B-Step does have Leoric in the bottom lane while Ragnaros is still just clearing. It's amazing to see Ragnaros fill that kind of Zool role on so many different maps because his wave clear is absolutely one of the most dominant for being a melee hero here. Leoric is trying to be able to do the same, so it will be a full 4 versus 4 for now in the top lane as B-Step seems to be feigning their channels.
Team 8 trying to push down these Mercenaries as much as they can to open up the lane, maybe get a good position for a kill, or to start channeling, make somebody from B-Step step out too far, and then Justin can jump right on top of them as ETC. Buds with the follow-up roots. That's what they're looking for. There goes the power slide. Push back, zoning roots. K1 Pro vaults around them and stays safe.
Yeah, and K1 Pro not getting that shield, and it's not going to get that great up until 7 when Tassadar is able to pick up his talent. Suddenly K1 Pro will be far more difficult to deal with. All right, here we go, and we'll see if they're going to be able to get that harass. Tyrael has made the rotation down to mid because over the long run, Ragnaros is dominating Leoric on this wave clear. See the ammo completely drained there. Bottom has been struggling here as it is completely depleted. So very well done here from Team 8, using that Ragnaros, forcing Leoric into a very questionable decision, but the polymorph and aggression onto Yoda does put him at half health as the tribute fight still keeps going.
As long as Team 8 doesn't lose anybody here, this is working out beautifully as an early game plan for them. They are keeping so many of the members of B-Step here in the top lane. They forced 2 down. Ragnaros has been hanging out in mid, though. This is a problem. He gets caught out, uses movement speed. Justin comes in too. He wants to help out. They'll get the kill, the turnaround kill on King Caffeine.
And Caff is going to end up falling here, and nobody's making that rotation yet up here to try and aid B-Step in confirming this channel. I don't think they realize, like, for B-Step is that this is not working. Not only to the pick, but there is no way you're going to get this channel 4 versus 4. The increased range coming out from Brightwing, you can get the delay for B-Step, but really the grenade's going to be poked. You have Malfurion with Elun's Grace.
Right.
And Asmodean's just going to be
himself.
flinging everything at you. They have to commit their resources, and now they feel so invested in this transitions that we see through mid and top that I almost feel like that they feel like they can't back out of what they already started, right? And things are just slowly going downhill. And Teammate's just going to proceed to enjoy every ounce of this. This is almost the exact opposite of what we saw BStep do on Battlefield of Eternity versus Gale Force Esports.
Giving them a taste of their own medicine. Team 8 will do this all day, throwing out to once again disrupt Brightwing, Ragnaros, hanging around, making some safer rotations between mid and bot, knowing that people are hunting him down. The Orc has come back up, making this a 4v4 once again around the Tribute. Maybe this is BStep's chance to finally pick it up.
Yeah, and I would expect to see iDream on Tyrael make this transition now that he has made it to the mid lane and things are getting relatively close to the 10 mark. That is exactly what he is going to do here as he's going to join the fight. So this is a disadvantage here for Team 8. They now see Tyrael and proceed to back out, and that is going to be BStep picking up the first Tribute.
Justin tried to interrupt with a face melt again, but he wasn't quite in range to do so, and it was a stellar play from Team 8. They never lost anybody, so they're not behind in experience. They have pushed mid and bot heavily. The only place where BStep has a good push happening is in top, which is good for them. That is where their safer boss is, so later on, if they're able to pick that up, that could start working on some keep towers, but still, it was heavily favored for Team 8 to be able to work that the way they did.
And so we did see the demonic invasion there for Asmodean. I want to see how this plays out. I like the creativity when it comes to the tributes itself and seeing that transition of, well, Asmodean can delay forever. Ragnaros is going to fill the role that Zul used to and, you know, out-soak your opponents in that front. But it hits a point where the team fight is really going to matter, and I question if Team 8 can handle that, especially with Demonic Invasion. But it is going to be already used there, applying pressure, trying to keep Brightwing stuck into the top lane with that Giant. So a lot of split pressure here for Team 8, especially if they can force the Brightwing to get that TP down here for BStep.
Yeah, that would be the golden plan. By the way, Mosh Pit's possible. 4-man Mosh Pit on top of them. They've got the follow-ups with Twilight Dream, Sulfurous Smash, 2 dead, Cap on the run, chasing down, Justin jumps right back in, looking for another kill. One more grenade. Globe not even needed.
That was an absolute taste of your own medicine here for Team 8. A 4-man mosh pit. The split pressure here we have in the top lane with the Giants going the entire time. Everything is looking pretty here for Team 8 as they're going to be able to back out and kill their own boss. BStep here, again, struggling with the early game, much like they did all of yesterday.
Dread, this is the kind of composition the BStep hates dealing with.
Yes.
We talked about it yesterday. The split pressure, constant push. Even when you win a team fight, you have to go defend your lanes. It's crummy. You always have to be responding to something out on the map. Not a good way to have to start off for BStep, but Team 8, they're coming out swinging.
They are, and a very creative approach so far here as the boss now for BStep will be scouted. They know it's low, but nobody's going to be able to make it in time, especially with that force wall coming out from McIntyre. 13 tier is going to be picked up here pretty soon for Team 8. The teams are going back, clearing out their opponent's bosses. And for now, it's just the slight lead here for Team 8. No team has like kind of a power play or a momentum, small window maybe where they need to be overly aggressive. It's just really BStep's got to figure out, you know, what is it that Team 8's trying to make happen and how do they stop it from getting out of control?
Great follow-up routes once again from Buds. Both teams trying to clear out the boss. Both forts went down to the respective bosses, but Team 8 were further ahead in experience, and RNG favors them as the tribute spawns right next to them. So this will be a second tribute for Team 8. One more, and they get the curse.
Yeah, this one that BStep is going to be all right with giving up, just again, getting rid of those bosses, not letting the split pressure. But the next one, they'll finally be able to pick up that 13 tier, and that's where I expect BStep to try to be the aggressors. We'll see if, though, Prismat on that Asmodean will get enough value, or, you know, you could just 4-man mosh. That's a pretty easy way to win a team fight, too.
The North American moshes, you know, you could say NA Entombs, NA this, NA that, but NA moshes are pretty good.
They are doing really well so far here. It's amazing that only, you know, within 3 days of play that we've had such ridiculous mosh pits so far. But 13 now is available for BStep, and we're still yet to see a full raw team fight. That is a consistent trend with BStep, and I'm trying to figure out where it is. What is making that a thing? Granted, Teammate has a composition that will try and avoid that full 5-on-5, at least for some time here, unless they're gaining something somewhere else on the map. But it's going to be interesting. We already see the Demonic Vision has gone out once more, and the pressure is going to be able to apply. But B-Step here needs to stop Teammate from getting this channel, or that could be a curse.
This is a weird positioning for Teammate to try to get into, especially with B-Step already set up. I think B-Step are fine just to delay as long as they can, but make sure they don't lose anybody. They have grenades. Like we said, they can also throw in some of the minions of Azmodan. They have globes. As the globe gets ready to pop out, it'll stall again. McIntyre's angry. And the continued stall goes on and on. Pressure on every single lane of B-Step. Teammate don't even need a curse.
Absolute complete control of the lanes here. And B-Step is just trying to figure out what their answer can be. Again, Brightwing does not have the wave clear. Leoric doesn't either. Valla is really the only person, and kind of Tassadar, to be able to rid of those minions in an effective amount of time. But what's your team fight without either one of them, you know, really into it? Brightwing, Tyrael, Leoric is not necessarily the skirmishing trio I aspire to have on my roster. So we do see Matt getting caught out there. Good juke coming out from Azee. A big root with that Elun's Grace should be able to confirm the kill here. He does have prescience. And good night, my sweet prince.
Wow is there to pick up another kill. It's 5 kills to 0 for Team 8. B-Step are just trying to get their footing back into their map presence, getting some of mercenary camps, pushing out back the lanes, but now is a huge issue because no 16. And it's the next tribute that causes a curse for either side.
It was the first time we actually see B-Step looking like, hey, you know, we're going to try and take this fight. Expulsion Zone's even going to be burnt there. That is definitely going to be King Caffeine going down. He might be able to spawn in time for this trio. Nah, he's going to take a little bit longer than that. So
Demonic Invasion even used to make sure they get the kill on Leoric. 16 tier here, Azmodan's full laser, full push, even picked up Demonic Smite just to make sure that the Demon Lieutenants that are pushing in the lanes are just wreck any of the other lane minions. And that'll be the first curse. Let's see what Teammate can do with it.
yeah, they're going to need to get quite a bit of value out of this. B-Step could, now that the death timers are getting very late because of how long we got the delay over the first tribute, the responsive curse on the side of B-Step, if it does happen, is enough to be able to open lethal as well. And with Teammate's lack of, you know, over-dominant skirmishing and more macro play, yes, it has opened the map up for them well, but really, again, if that one team fight happens in the wrong direction, it really could come back to one curse and B-Step could end the game. So we'll see how well Teammate's going to be able to siege up onto these keeps. I expect a minimum of one going down with Azmodan's passive split pushing probably in the top lane here. It should help that secure top keep over time.
B-Step has shown that they understand when they can fight down the 16 talent tier 2. They did it yesterday versus Gale Force Esports, and that's what enabled them to start the comeback to get the 5-man mosh to win the game. So they're not afraid of fighting always. They just need to find the right place to do it here. Entomb is available. Everything's available except for Demonic Invasion. The right Entomb comes in. Here's a Holy Ground. Cap could turn.
The Holy Ground attempt was not enough to confirm this fight, and it looks like B-Step wants to get on Glorong. He has isolated himself. He should not be able to mount. We'll see if Holy Ground is not going to be able to wrap him and entomb him. I guess he can entomb when you have a Leoric on your team, but either way, not going to be able to keep Glorong there and get stuck. Brightwing trying to clear out that top wave. And no major advantage out of that curse there for Teammate. They weren't able to really make anything happen, so that is, you know, breathing room here for B-Step as they do sniff out that the boss is happening. And boss control is definitely going to be a tough one. Holy Ground and Sanct are a thing. Expulsion Zone is available for the Zarya. We've already seen how that works when B-Step risked that against Gale Force.
That is true.
We do have a huge difference, though.
Different people and the talent that is going to reduce cooldown of Eldurin's Might, Roger for forging, which was not the talent choice on Sky Temple yesterday.
Yeah, that was a really difficult thing for them to be able to control those bosses, but with this adjustment, it should make it a bit easier here. Teammate, though, just really kind of putting on a clinic on how to not team fight, you know, just macroing around the map. It is one of the beauties of Cursed Hollow when it's put into full effect. It's also, as you said, one of the most frustrating ways to kind of or things to play against, much like, you know, old school Abathur was. But either way, Teammate now is going to be backing out, looking towards the boss. I expect B-Step to understand this is happening as Leoric and Tyrael, again, still getting the scout. Very good job from B-Step. Scouting, but also making sure everybody's kind of close enough, soaking and doing their own thing.
Yeah.
to really, no free boss, but at the same time maximizing the value of every character on the field here.
There's a lot of choke points, so if Justin can find the right situation as B-Step funnels in, there is the possibility that he can get a big mosh pit again. Seems like that's more their concern. They're just baiting, seeing if they can move in. They want to get a kill on King Caffeine right before this tribute fight would start. If Teammate could pick up this tribute, it means no curse for B-Step, and Teammate can continue the pressure. Everyone's starting to move in. Brightwing phase shifting potentially at any time. iDream is caught in the back, away from the team, uses Holy Ground to separate members of Team 8. Prismaticism caught between Holy Ground and Sandwich even. Sanctification has been dropped. Ice Block used to help Malfurion. Buds needs to get out of here. He is stuck. He gets down. He gets taken out.
And the Entomb onto Glaurung in the backline has really forced him not to get value. A big Sulfurious Smash, though, will confirm the kill. Sadly, only onto Leoric. Now Glaurung does go down. That's a one-man mosh pit. He's going to hit K1 Pro, but he's going to be just fine as that's interrupted. Holy Ground is now splitting Justin the force wall. You shall not pass. There is no direction. The power slide out, but he's going to be falling here. That is a boss and a curse here now for B-Step. A huge momentum swing, but it will cost them a lot of health on their top keep. Maybe even fall as this curse play is going to be coming in.
Justin didn't have crowd surf for 2, instead going for loudspeakers for the increased knockback and range of Face Melt. There's the curse, here's the boss. Brightwing's going back. I don't think Brightwing will be back. Nope, curse or the minions are enough to bring down the top keep. It'll be keep for probably keep. This boss still has a fort to go through in the bottom lane, but Team 8 or B-Step could just play the game where they push in, they've pushed into mid, they've taken out some towers, they caught up in experience, and they could look at the other boss, ensuring that they get both. There's no concern for that later on, that Team 8 can pick them up and start to, especially this top one, go toward the core.
Yeah, that was a really interesting choice on the side of B-Step. So this boss, they know their opponent's going to be responding to on the bottom half of the map. But typically, I would always suggest never looking to get a boss during the middle of the curse. Like, they started off right by going, okay, we're going to get the boss, and then we're going to be able to pick up the curse. But then you need to be able to transition, force a response to where you say you either take on the boss, which is always the safer route, get rid of the boss with no catapults or turrets shooting at it, or you worry about us, which should be at the mid-keep. Then once the curse ends, you back out and consider your boss. So yes, there was a lot of curse time and a little bit done right here on the side of B-Steps. They definitely did not maximize the value here out of this curse at all. And they have opted towards this 20 fight pushing onto top, which may not even net them a keep unless they make a pretty big play and get a pick.
But King Caffeine was already in the lane, starting to hold on to the minions, so that the minions will be completely pushed up. Add some giants to this, and the push gets even a little stronger. Maybe he can get an Entomb over the wall, and K1 Pro and the rest of B-Step can blow up somebody from Teammate, but it's hard when they've got Yoda and a lot of health and shielding.
Yeah, and there we see Glaurung is going to be able to take this keep, deter some of the damage. He's already thrown out his stun, so that's going to be on cooldown for a short time. Holy Ground for the split, and now he is out. Boss still wailing onto the keep as it falls to 65, 50% health. There's the Entomb onto Glaurung. The stun from the boss actually lands. Zarya shield's there. Mosh onto the backline cleanse, so it cannot be interrupted. Very well done coming out from Team 8.
Submerge keeps Glaurung nice and healthy too, but Justin's in trouble. He's down. He has got caught by, I believe, a boss root, and that will be the end of ETC. Glaurung being body blocked by APM and King Caffeine, and that is a second kill. B-Step have been behind. They have weathered the storm, though. They have taken down a lot of members of Team 8-3 already. Make that 4 as Yoda drops. Prismaticism, the only one left in the base. The rest of B-Step don't care. They have had enough, and they're going to take out Team 8 to win game number 1.
It all started very well for that unique composition coming out for Team 8. Worry about the macro, delay the tributes as long as possible. But again, the minute the, team fights have to happen moment happens, if you haven't opened up the map and forced catapults to be threatening for, make, B-Step in some way respond to something else, it just fell apart.
There were catapults, but it was pretty late on in the game, too, after the curse had happened. And importantly, Teammate's curse accomplished nothing, whereas the curse for B-Step, although it started off slow, were able to get both bosses and get the boss, importantly, that helped open up win condition for them. Yeah,
it was very well done from them. And again, it's just how fast you can open up the map with that Azmodan strategy is really what you need. At least like half a keep, I think, by... I would say like level 13, 14 is where you want to start getting that threat. And they did their best. They did play it very, very well. And don't get me wrong, that strategy is insanely